Okay. This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, where I lived for many years. Okay. Today is January 2nd, 2024. It's 10:18 in the morning and 61 degrees already. And waiting for the weather refresh. High of 67, low of 53. So sunny. And we got rain in sight for Friday, which I hope never happens. Please pray. Our roof leaks. Okay. And the landlords in Israel don't fix things. He'll just tell us to move. So we made some makeshift repairs on the roof and they're not working well. So please pray that we don't get much rain because then the roof leaks. And it's pretty hard. And it could fry the electricity or something. I don't know what to do. He won't fix it. It's reasonably expensive to fix it. And he'd just say, just move. And then he'll try to rent it in the warm weather to somebody else. And these are the problems of life in Israel. It's a jerk's roof if you don't want to move. It's so ridiculous living here. You have no idea. So please pray that we get something done with the roof and the roof doesn't leak and we don't get enough rain to make the roof leak. I'm not saying all Israel shouldn't get rain, just us. It's hard, let me tell you. You people in Europe and America have probably never had to deal with pig landlords like this, And it's the corrupt government that lets them do it, The people that own the real estate have more money than the people that rent the real estate. So therefore, they get more influence with the political parties. And Netanyahu wants to hold on those to the grindstone. So we got a lot to talk about with Netanyahu. His demise is rapidly approaching. I'll show you that today in politics. All right, so let me do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Let me do some housekeeping in the chat while we're waiting on people to come in. And looks like we got sound and picture and chat. Yeah, I'm running this on my backup MacBook Pro, so it has better microphones and sound. I did raise money for the iPad, and I already got it delivered before 8 o'clock this morning, which almost made me fall over. The guy at 10 minutes late calls me. I know the courier. And, I had to get my pants on and get dressed to go out there. He was getting a little mad at me, and there it was. And then I set it up mostly. I don't have it complete, but I'll probably go back to that. Okay, let me do some housekeeping in the chat. These new iPads are fantastic to set up. You turn Bluetooth on and you put them next to each other, and they just transfer the data on Bluetooth. So it was really easy. It used to be when you'd get computers, and you had a new one, it would take, it would really be about a week till I'd get it set up, 2 or 3 days to get it pretty good. It's a lot nicer to have to just get it set up. It takes about maybe 40 minutes or something versus days. It gets everything, downloads apps and all kinds of stuff. All right. I'm going fast here. All right. Okay, got the chat seems to be working. Everything's running. Okay. So, probably what's appropriate today is do a little bit of review as to what happened yesterday, what I was teaching. By the way, with the bricks and the 10 horns, January 1, the extra nations joined BRICS, and now they do have 10. I believe that's the date they officially went in. And like I've been saying, what BRICS is going to do is eventually revert to running something like a NATO for BRICS. They're going to, I believe, build a military force. Spilled some coffee. Well, I'll survive. The Iranians, I'm getting conflicting reports. I'm getting one report that two Iranian warships are in the Red Sea, and another report is stating one Iranian warship, like a destroyer or something like that, is in the Red Sea, but it's at least one. And there's rumors that there was a naval battle last night or yesterday between America coalition forces in the Red Sea and the Houthis, but we heard reports of explosions. I haven't really been able to verify this and make sure it's true. It could be rumor mill. I don't know. They did sink 3 Houthi boats attacking a maritime vessel from Maersk, Maersk, about 3 days ago. And the Americans hit the Sana'a, that's the capital, Yemen International Airport. And they didn't do a real Netanyahu. They did a real job on it. They blew the radar up and the control tower, I assume, and all sorts of stuff. Probably because Iran was using it to bring in more weapons to the Houthis. Now, I don't know much about the other airports in Yemen, but I'm sure they have at least 2 or 3 others that could probably be used. I don't know for sure. I'm guessing. Now, these big cargo planes probably need a long runway, and maybe there's a problem with that. Or maybe for some reason the Americans don't care, or they're going to have to go back and get the other airports. I don't know. Unclear. Now, will Iran keep trying to get weapons into Yemen? I'm rather sure. They could also bring them on a boat and just dock in Yemen and offload them that way. I doubt the warship is bringing weapons because I don't think it has enough. I mean, it could bring a little bit, but to get a good amount, I think they'd need a cargo vessel, probably 300 to 500-foot cargo vessel. So anyway, what's next? The American bases are continually getting attacked in Iraq and Syria. Last night, we had a little bit of a problem, not so much, but the one of the militias in Syria launched 5 missiles into the Golan Heights, and there was no damage. They were in open fields and stuff like that, and we attacked the launch site with artillery. So artillery in Israel, while artillery can typically go 25 miles, you have to change the shells for that, a lighter shell and things like this. The fact that we retaliated to the launch site with artillery makes me think that the launch was close to Israel, because our artillery will generally go 15 miles. That's the shells they usually use. Now, it's possible it doesn't. No, so it was launched quickly, so there were probably immature missiles, not advanced. So we're getting probably 4 or 5 days a week small missile attacks like this from Syria. Then we retaliated. We're hitting, Damascus, and America is occasionally doing some bombing runs on the militias in Syria, but not much of anything. Okay. Now, let me make some important points here politically, which will affect prophecy, of course. Biden and Netanyahu are not seeing eye to eye. Netanyahu is trying to cooperate with Biden, but at the same time, he's trying to watch himself politically because he can be removed from office. Different ways. One way is a vote of no confidence, which is very dangerous. Because this guy, I told you, will throw Israel into wars, and if he has to, rather than go to jail for a maximum sentence of 16 years, he may never get that much, he would probably try to see Israel destroyed first. Of course, he would just get on a plane and fly to some friendly country. I'm sure he has lined up somewhere. And then if there's no country, there's nobody hunting him down. There's no jail. There's no trials, no nothing. Does he have money stashed in other countries? Rumors are he has millions stashed in offshore banks. But do I know that for a fact? No. But many people believe that. But that doesn't mean a lot. Could Netanyahu fire up the surrounding Muslim terrorist states to destroy Israel? He could. See, Israel tells the people in the military, hey, we can handle Gaza. We can handle Lebanon. We could handle Syria, which would also include Iraq, right? Jordan is probably going to join in. I don't know when, but I expect we'll see it. And the Houthis in Yemen have already joined in. And we discovered Edom is actually in northeast Saudi Arabia, right near Israel. So we know Edom's going to be a bad boy. And that's run by Saudi Arabia. Moab and Ammon are in Jordan. Ammon will submit to Israel, and Moab gets wiped out, which is Jordan. So we know Jordan is going to rise up against us, but I can't definitively say if it'll be exactly when it'll be. I imagine pretty for sure they'll be in the Zechariah 12 fight. Okay, so on January 1st, the High Court, which we incorrectly call the Supreme Court in Israel, foreigners do, came out with a ruling that the reasonableness law passed by Netanyahu with the Knesset is null and void. So that means the High Court can make decisions that an action, not a law, an action of the government is not reasonable and stop it. Now, what they did, it's a little tricky. What Netanyahu and the Knesset did was they passed a law saying the reasonableness practice of the High Court cannot continue because that's not incorporated in the basic laws. It's sort of something that the Supreme Court or the High Court just started doing. Could you say they usurped their power? Maybe you can. I don't know, probably. But what they did concerned a law that dealt with the reasonable High Court. So they struck the law down, which they have the power to do. Coincidentally, this law had to do with reasonableness, but they said that Netanyahu was destroying the democracy with this law, and they can't do that. Now, this is the beginning of getting rid of Netanyahu. Okay? They probably are aware of the October 7th and the amazing intelligence failure, which was ridiculously insane. So something was rotten in Denmark, as they say. No offense, Denmark. There was a rat in the woodpile, and they seemed to see it. Okay. Now, what's their next move? Well, they announced it previously. Their next move is Netanyahu had a law passed stating that the prime minister cannot be removed from office without a 75% vote in favor of his removal by the Knesset. That's our Congress, one house Congress, 120 seats. The majority normally is 61. He said it has to be 75. And they could only remove him for health reasons. Okay? So he can't be removed for corruption. He can't be removed for rape, murder, sedition, or anything. It's just stupid. Okay? It violates the principles of the democracy. It makes him like a king. Not exactly, but it's moving in that area. So that's their next target. Okay? And I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is going to be removed because it's just a stupid thing. Okay, all you got to do is tell the public, well, he could take bribes, he could do this, he could do that, he could become a criminal, and we can't do anything. Come on. So that's going to go. I don't know how many weeks it'll take. It was a surprise to me that they took the law off the books on January 1st. I thought it was going to happen later on. So it might be they're fast tracking this stuff. We'll have to see. Now, when that law is removed, what this and the reasonableness law preventing them from using reasonableness is gone already. So the next move will be to strike down that the only way you can remove a prime minister is with the 75% vote for health reasons only. That's an absurd law he tried. So it would make sense that Netanyahu on October 7th with good old dirty Joe Biden, this thing got hatched. And he is staying in power because the people are afraid to do anything to remove him because they don't want to show weakness or division to the enemies, which I think is stupid. If the guy's working against the best interests of Israel on purpose or not on purpose, you got to remove him, war or no war. So it's a lack of logic going on there. As a matter of fact, it should be the other way around. During a war, they should be more urgent of getting rid of him. Now, when you talk to the Israelis, the native-born ones, they'll say, "Oh, you don't understand. You don't." Yeah, they don't understand. They don't understand Bible prophecy. They don't understand a lot of things. Believe me. That's why jerks like Netanyahu have been reigning over Israel for over 20 years. So they still mostly believe he's operating in their best interest, which not everybody, because they're getting woke up here too. But he made a written agreement with the government, with the courts, I believe, when he ran for office to get in this current term, stating he wouldn't interfere with the court system because there's a conflict of interest, because he has 3 active criminal cases now with trials ongoing that bring a total of 16 years in jail. Okay? So they're going to say he violated the agreement he made with the court to not get involved with politics, which he did. And it's objective. And then they're going to tell him he has to step down and proceed with his trials fast track. And if he survives the trials, perhaps he'll be reinstated. So it would maybe they would word it as a temporary suspension until the trials are over. Who becomes prime minister, I don't know. That's one way. The other way to do it is they could just do a vote of no confidence, which Gantz would come out on top. Gantz would side with Yair Lapid. Yair Lapid is a left-wing television announcer, obviously expire and made it into politics. And Gantz is a former top general and minister of defense for a brief period of time. And Gantz is undoubtedly the one that will win with Yair Lapid. Now, they can most likely form a coalition with 61 seats without using the ultra-Orthodox, who they don't like at all. And they can't really hook up with Smotrich and Ben Gvir and their parties because these guys are interested only in severe right-wing behavior of the government, which is in opposition to Gantz and Yair Lapid. There's a couple other little small parties wandering around they might pick up, or they may go if they have to with Ben Gvir and Smotrich, but I don't think so. They probably will get Lieberman. The Russian fellow has a lot of Russian votes, but he comes in at about 7 votes. So they might make it without the right wing and without the religious Orthodox. Push come to shove, they'll work with the right wing before the religious Orthodox. Gantz will be different than Netanyahu, but probably in the final analysis, no better. Okay? He's not going to lower housing prices. He's not going to effectively stop inflation. He's not going to let the people be free. Would he let a lot of people have guns? Maybe he would do that. Maybe. I'm thinking. Now, Netanyahu is, if he could get away with it, he would take a stand against the Supreme Court and arrest them. House arrest, suspend the Supreme Court, and try to figure out how to appoint a new court, which would be puppets of his. He would say they're meddling in affairs, they're overreaching the role of the judiciary in the democracy. There's executive, which is him. There's legislative, which is the Knesset, which he has a very strong hold on, combined with the right wing, the Orthodox religious parties, and the Likud party that he's the chairman of. But it appears that he won't be able to hold a 61-seat majority. So Gantz and Yair Lapid would get in, probably with Lieberman and maybe with Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, and additional, there's a couple of very small parties running around. He might pick up Meretz or something. I don't know. Probably pick up Meretz, which again is going to be a handful of seats only, but he's pretty strong. Okay. Now, trying to sequence everything for you. So he knows the next step of the Supreme Court is to get rid of that law he had passed that you can't remove the prime minister without 75% vote in the Knesset only for health reasons. He knows that's going to go. That's an absurd law. That's probably why he threw us into this war, because he doesn't want to go to jail. He's old enough. He's 70, I don't know, 73. He'll die in jail if he gets 16 years. Now, he might get 3 or 4 years, which is more typical, but he might also get 8 or 10 years, and he doesn't want that to happen. And they'll probably confiscate his residence in Caesarea, which is probably worth millions. And he may lose other assets that they could find. They probably won't be able to get his offshore accounts. But if he's in prison and the wife or the kids, or his kid, I don't know, I think he has one kid or something like that. If they try to access the money, there could be dire consequences. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that. They might leave Israel, which is unlikely. That means leave him stranded here in jail, but they could do that. There are spots, you know. So Biden and Netanyahu have been clashing heads, okay? And Netanyahu makes concessions to Biden against the best interests of Israel. And one of the bad ones he made probably about 3 weeks ago was Biden wanted him to cut out the bombing and the artillery because it was causing too many civilian casualties. I'll explain. When the soldiers would get shot at by anti-tank weapons or bullets from inside a building or behind a building or something like that, behind cover or in cover, they would not engage the enemy. They would call for artillery strikes on the building they were in or behind or next to, whatever, and or jet aircraft bombing. The building would get blown up. They would get killed. And the civilians would always be near there because Hamas makes sure that that's their human shields. So they would be around and they would get killed. So the casualties for the civilians was getting very high. Okay. Hamas still manages to get rockets off every day or other day barrages and stuff. It's pretty distressing to the people in Israel. And there are good reasons why Netanyahu's army can't stop it. But what a lot of people are saying is Netanyahu is dragging the war out because he doesn't want to get removed from office. He's banking on they won't do anything to him while he's in office. However, now he sees the Supreme Court is moving for him. As of January 1st, he knows it's coming. So he may try to increase the wars in Israel to get the people more and more scared of removing him. Or he may actually take things to an insane level and put Israel in a position where they can't survive. If he could get away with that, which God's not going to let him do, but he may try that. He sees the writing on the wall. He's trying to make himself a hero and hope that people leave him alone because he's their war hero. The fact of October 7th, very suspicious, doesn't make him woman Moshe inside. And in addition, the investigation, if the war was over tomorrow, there'd be a big investigation over what happened October 7th and who was responsible. And many people feel ultimately it falls on him as the prime minister. And that could cause a lot of problems. If Netanyahu could control the investigation in the Knesset, piece of cake for him. If he can't control the investigation, it's managed by the courts, well, he's got big trouble because then the truth will come out. And he's got a lot of problems then. He could not only be removed from prime minister, he could wind up in prison along with 15 or 20 other cronies in his government. So they're going to hang tough with him because they don't want to see this happen. Ben-Gvir and Smotrich would love to see it happen. Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid, I don't know. Lieberman would love to see it happen. He hates Netanyahu. Okay. So Biden and him have had problems. So Netanyahu, the artillery just got reinstated yesterday to the soldiers. So because too many soldiers were getting killed over a brief period of time. So if they saw Houthis in a building, behind the building, whatever, shooting at them, they can now call in artillery strikes again, which is going to reduce our casualty rate. Okay? And the jets are perhaps not yet told to respond to every request, but I think they're responding more again, but not in its fullness. So Biden is not happy because he tells Netanyahu to do something. Netanyahu says, sure, no problem, Joe. And then he starts doing it and public opinion goes against him. He flip-flops on Biden and then goes to do what's best for him, and then Biden gets mad. Biden is going to follow the Henry Kissinger plan and try to make sure nobody wins in Gaza. Okay. Now let's talk about Biden and the snare. With the open borders, Biden is definitely working the snare against America from inside at the top. There's no other reason. I have never seen a debate on TV. What's good about the illegal immigrants processing as asylum seekers and getting court dates in 2031 and getting moved all over the United States. 300,000 approximately came in November, and December's likely higher. And now we're saying there's a 7 million backlog we're hearing in processing these border crossers, these sleeper agents, these Trojan horses. So that would mean there's a good 7 million already in, and he still wants more to come in. I don't understand it. There's so many. And they talk about terrorist strikes. Guys, if they had 6, 10, 20,000 in the country, they would be doing terrorist strikes. Like what? Maybe a bridge, a building, a hospital, a school, a mall, a synagogue, a church. But with millions, they're going to hit the military bases because we know Bible prophecy. They'll either take the bases over or destroy them. They may take the weapons from the bases and use them against Americans. Let me explain this to you. In American military bases in the past years, guys have a lot of problem bringing guns, personal guns, onto the base. And they normally don't walk around the base holding rifles and things like that. Now, if they're in a base in Syria or Iraq, yeah, they probably over there do walk around with their guns slung on their shoulder and everything's ready to go, mortars, artillery, missiles, rockets, tanks, but not in America. They use these weapons and military equipment for training. That's it. Training. They don't give them the guns when they go back to their barracks or their housing. Now, soldiers that live off the base, could they buy a gun and keep it in their apartment? I don't see why they couldn't. They could buy 10 guns and keep them in their apartment. Nobody's going to say anything about that. Could they bring the guns on the base? No. So they're basically walking around unarmed. So how are the bases protected? They have Department of Defense police, which are guys trained like regular policemen that wear uniforms and they patrol a base. They patrol the perimeter of the fence. They handle criminal actions on the base, like a burglary, an assault, a fight, a car theft, vandalism, domestic violence, drunk and disorderly accidents, things like this, even murders. So they're the police department for the base. And most of these bases may have a few dozen, a big base may have a few dozen of these guys, but they're broken up into shifts. So they would likely work 4 10-hour shifts or 5 8-hour shifts a week. So there's not many of them on duty. They don't have the problems of a urban city. Soldiers are way less prone to run around breaking the law compared to the general population. Now, the entry and exit areas, the gates to get on and off the base, are usually armed by MPs, although they could be Department of Defense police as well. MPs are soldiers. Department of Defense police are not soldiers, they're civilians. So MPs will greet a car and state your business. You have a delivery, do you have paperwork? Let me verify it, whatever, right? But the bases are getting deliveries all day long. So there's probably very little done about it. They're probably just questioned. And if the story sounds good, they get in. So they're bringing food, supplies, everything under the sun going in and out. And plus, lots of people are going in and out. They're going out to lunch, they're going shopping, they're going off shift, they're coming in on shift, they're whatever, right? So they check IDs and, there's some reasonably decent control over who gets in and off the base. But, this guy told me there was a base in North Florida in the Panhandle that he worked on. And he told me that the base is typically guarded by 9 Berettas per shift, which is 9 Department of Defense police carrying Berettas. Now, when things got hairy, they were issued the AR-15 or the M16s. So they have an arsenal where they can draw those weapons, the assault rifles. Okay. Now, that means 9. Now, you got to break it down. That means there's probably going to be on a shift 9, there's going to be maybe 4 or 5 riding patrol at all times. There's going to be a supervisor in the main office and probably a dispatcher. So they probably got 2. And, this is what it is. So if you took a crowd of 2,500 sleeper agents with being able to buy guns, of course, they're going to be armed with assault rifles like M16. They may not use ARs, AKs. They may just use the 5.56 or the .223, and they don't need full auto, just semi-auto, and they get a like a 40-round clip for the M16, and they carry maybe a total of 200-300 rounds with them in full clips. They might have plate carriers, they might not. They probably won't be in uniform. And what they would do is they would collect near the base someplace. Now, the government distributing them in various cities in the country is probably tied to where the military bases are, okay, or the bases they want to take out. Now, they could set up several miles outside these bases, 5, 6, 7 miles probably. And they could build cheap, easy to make, kitchen table basement Katyusha rockets that'll go at least 8 miles and set up hundreds and hundreds of them like Hamas did in warehouses and buildings that they have money to buy. They got plenty of money. And they just break them out when the time comes for the attack, and they start attacking with these Katyushas from all over the place onto the American base. Now, they may also use more sophisticated missiles because it's easy for them to build missiles in America. They have full machine shops. They buy factories. What do you think they do? Muslim training camps. They've been doing this probably for years. They could have missiles with 100-pound to 500-pound warheads. So they start launching all kinds of ordnance into the base. Most of these are going to be unguided missiles. They're just terrorists. They're going to hit randomly. But if you put hundreds of them in, the people in the base are going to go into panic, the soldiers, okay? They're going to take cover, but they don't have bomb shelters in the American bases normally for everybody, They're going to try to draw weapons, but they'll find that the weapon arsenal is locked. Some of them may evacuate the base, and the terrorists won't care about that. Let them go. And then they'll swarm the base, engaging any enemy agents, any, Department of Defense police or military police that are protecting the base. They'll just overwhelm them and shoot them up. They also make their own shoulder-fired weapons, RPGs, and much more advanced than RPGs. They make them in basements on kitchen tables. So they'll have plenty of those. So they'll invade the base, and they could take the soldiers prisoner or just kill them. They could occupy the base by taking over the weapons of the base, the tanks, armored personnel carriers, armored Humvees, machine guns, artillery if they have any, missile launchers if they have them, shoulder-fired missiles, whatever, and occupy the base. Or Probably the most intelligent thing for them to do would be to commandeer the weapons of the base and use those. Now, do you think they have helicopter and jet pilots in amongst them with the millions of them? Of course they do. So they could start using the planes and attack other bases and the helicopters as well. Remember, you're dealing with jihadists that don't care that much about getting killed as martyrs, as they define themselves. So they hit several of the, or quite a few of the American top military bases. They'll go after where the advanced jets are. They'll go after bases where a lot of missiles and weapons are stored. And they'll go after Navy and Coast Guard bases where they have ships that are a threat. And they can take the ships over, and they might have sailors that know how to run the ship, or they could just blow the ships up, probably just blow them up. And that's what I believe their plan is. Now, see, it's normal for Russia and China are the kingpin players in this snare, okay? And America, Russia, China, and America, because Biden's obviously open border. Biden is in on it. I mean, you tell me why he won't close the borders now, come on, So Biden will have disagreements with Xi Jinping in China and Putin and the mullahs from Iran, and they're not going to see eye to eye. They're going to have disputes, fights, arguments. A house divided unto itself shall not stand, so they'll be divided. So Biden looked at Netanyahu, and he's having such frustration with Netanyahu because Netanyahu keeps deviating from what he agrees to protect his own position. So Biden likely just said, the heck with Netanyahu, let him go down. Gantz came to visit Biden before Netanyahu did, who Netanyahu came on February 20th. All of a sudden, Biden invited him to the White House, where previously he didn't want him there. And then a little over 2 weeks later came October 7th, so 2 plus 2. Now, Gantz was invited by Biden some weeks before Netanyahu, so we don't know what they cooked up. So he knows that Gantz is the shoe-in, and he could be just throwing Netanyahu away because it's too problematic for him to deal with. Now, what did we see objectively recently? 5, I think they call them battalions or divisions, whatever, of Israel reserve soldiers have been sent home from Gaza, relieved of duty. Not in a bad way. Go home, be with your families. If we need you, we'll call you. Okay? They didn't send them to Lebanon. What else happened? The Gerald Ford aircraft carrier group has been, I believe, in Crete or Greece in recent days, and now everybody's saying it's going back to America. So it appears to me that Biden and Netanyahu made some sort of arrangement to end the war. The latest negotiation from Hamas is rather futile. They want hundreds of prisoners released. They want a very long-term or permanent ceasefire, long-term a month or so, 3 weeks or a month, in return for 40 hostages. Israel's not going to be able to give that to him. Netanyahu may want to, but Israel won't, because they'll just in that 3 or 4 weeks build up so many more rockets and missiles. They'll just lay a massive barrages on us and try to get us to make more concessions with them. And then we'll just have to go back in again. Biden wants this thing to end without a winner. He doesn't want to give Hamas victory because Hamas acted like buttheads with the sexual crimes and the torture and the burning alive and putting babies in ovens alive, and a baby anyway, cutting fetuses out of women and alive and all this. This was just stupid, you know? Had Hamas done this and took the hostages back to Gaza, kept them alive, treated them well, which they did not do, Biden would have a completely different opinion on this situation. But that's not what they did. And he doesn't want them to emerge winners, but with 21,000 dead and 60,000 or so wounded, how are they coming out winners? 85% of the buildings and structures considered residence in Gaza are destroyed or damaged. The Gazan civilians have been looting the apartments that were damaged from the other Gazans. Hamas is stealing the food from the UN and the other countries, bringing caravans of food, water, fuel, medical into Gaza. They've been apprehending or capturing the humanitarian aid and keeping it for themselves. And stores are selling supplies to the people at outrageously high prices. So the chances are the store owners are getting the food from Hamas, probably buying the free food from Hamas and then reselling it at high markups. Many of the people left North Gaza to go to South Gaza, and they're living in tent cities. I don't think these tents have electricity. They might have a wood floor, but I don't think they have electricity. A wood floor means you take wood planks and you make a square and you nail it together and you elevate them, I don't know, you go 3, 4, 6, 8 inches or whatever off the ground. So if there's rains, the tents don't flood, so they could stay dry in the tent. The weather doesn't get to freezing down there. It would normally probably never get below 45. So if you're in a tent, you're out of the wind, you're out of this, you're out, and you bundle up, you could stay in the tent. You're not going to get a big chill factor. It'll be cold. They probably don't have any real good way to heat themselves in the tent. If they did, they'd start burning the tents down, knowing them. So they're cooking outside, probably on little grills, making fires, stuff like that. The ones in the South, I believe, are getting sufficient humanitarian aid. So again, Biden's ticked off about that. So he's not pleased with Hamas, okay? He's advocating humanitarian aid and Hamas is stealing it. So he's not happy, okay? Has the Americans ever attacked Hamas or Gaza? No. No. As far as I know, the only ones that the Americans have attacked are the Iraqi and Syrian militias in Iraq and Syria and the Houthis in Yemen. Nobody else. So it looks like Biden and Netanyahu have concocted something to end the war. Now, Biden's plan would be to keep Hamas in Gaza to play again another day. Israel's plans run across the board. One theory is we've got to go in and demilitarize them altogether. Biden may go along with this, but it depends how they demilitarize them and how long that takes. Israel has a pretty decent contingency in the Knesset that want to offer to the Palestinians an opportunity to go to other countries. They've lined up some countries, I believe they're in Africa mostly or totally, where they can go relocate there, and Israel will give them a bundle of shekels when they leave. I would think they would be getting $5,000 to $10,000 a family, depending on the size of the family. They would have papers concocted that they could leave Israel but never come back. Okay? Probably have fingerprints taken and I don't know what else, maybe DNA, but they're going to make sure they're not coming back. The country will take them because they're going to have this money and they're going to have to spend this money in the country and bolster the economy. So if a country takes 3,000 of them, it'll do nothing. But if a country takes 30,000 of them, it'll bolster the economy in the country. A lot of these countries are not going to have any kind of realistic social welfare system. It might be that the UN brings emergency food rations in and they can get that and live in a tent or something. I don't know. Biden is saying he doesn't want any involuntary expelling of the Gazans. So Israel's saying not against their will, just offer it to them. And Biden's probably okay with that. People are saying Biden's going to bring them into America. I don't think so. It's too high profile. It's too crazy. It would take a lot of evacuation, and he's already bringing millions in now. And where's he going to put everybody? And, I'm not so sure that's got any realistic levels in it. I'm reading the chat. Someone said they're not soldiers, it's a coup. I don't know what you're talking about. It makes no sense. There are 70% of these people crossing the borders due to his open border are military age males. It could be even higher. And people that have had contact with them, a person anyway, a subscriber told me they're vigorous males. In other words, they're in shape. So that's your answer. It's not a coup, it's a destruction. It's Jeremiah 50:51. Suddenly in a day it happens. And then there's an invading army that comes. And the invading army probably wants these sleeper agents to take over the bases. When the bases are taken over and or destroyed, then they'll do their invasion because they're not going to encounter much resistance, which is what you read about in Jeremiah 50:51. They go in their holes and they're afraid to fight because their military is gone. Okay. What are they going to do with their pistols and rifles when the enemy is coming in with armored vehicles? What are they going to do? So I believe Biden and Netanyahu are at odds, and they're trying to end the war, and Biden's imposing his will on Netanyahu, and Netanyahu along with it. And when it blows up, because the Israelis are in no mood, there's a massive dislike the Israelis currently have towards Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the militias in Syria because they keep raining missiles down on us. And they started it for no reason other than they want us out of the land. That's not much of a reason. So they also rose up their terrorists inside the West Bank, and mostly Jenin, Nablus. Jenin is the hotbed. Biden is high on getting Mahmoud Abbas to run Palestine. He's not even that interested in doing it. And Netanyahu can't sell that to Israel. That's impossible. He runs the Slave for Pay program, where money is given to the families of terrorists that get killed, that get put in jail every month. It's a little over $1,000 a month. So it's a murder incorporated he's running. America gives him money, European Union gives him money, UN gives him money, and he keeps running around paying people to kill Israelis, men, women, and children. And America's fine with that. So don't tell me America's a friend of Israel. Come on, get off that. America's using Israel and trying to put a snare on Israel now, opening up many fronts, and then they do nothing. That's all they got to do. They don't even have to leave the Middle East, just do nothing. They just let it happen. That's what they're doing with Lebanon. That's what they're doing with Gaza. Now, the Houthis is another problem because they're closing the Red Sea to commerce, and they're threatening to blow the internet cables, which are the banking cables, which may very well happen. I can't say with 100% certainty the internet cables are the banking SWIFT cables, but I would go 90% on it anyway. To build worldwide cable network, it'd just be way too expensive for just several thousand banks. It's too much money. They just use the internet. They use a terminal. You have to have a big terminal to get into the SWIFT system. And you can't use a regular computer. So the first problem is they have to get one of these terminals. And of course, the terminals are readily identified. They're probably hard coded into the chips in the terminal that you can't modify with software. You'd have to build a new chip and change it. And so they log in. And if they're cut off, probably emergency notices are sent to the bank that belongs to that terminal. And if there's no response, they just would suspend the use of that terminal. So there's little chance of them ever being able to hack in. So they could use it on the internet cables. And the check and balances, you just have a live person in the wire department. You have usually a few people, and they look over the wires. And if they see anything weird, they don't send the wire. They make an inquiry to the sender, and they could make an inquiry to the receiver. Usually they wouldn't. So if that gets cut, it'll be a disaster for many countries. Okay, so this is something that I don't think Biden is ready for right now. See, Biden has probably got something up his sleeve with the sleeper agents continuing to pour in. He wants this to continue. He doesn't want to throw the towel in on this to gain political points. He wants it to keep up for some reason. Maybe they're now bringing in pilots for helicopters and jets and tank drivers, or I don't know. But he's pretty dead bent on having it continue. He's got more than enough to build an army of millions right now. There's more of these sleeper agents in America than there is in American military, counting Coast Guard, Marines, Navy, Air Force, and Army. So they're throwing you curveballs by keep telling you terrorist attacks. Oh, they might attack on Christmas. They might attack on New Year's. They might hit the synagogues. They might hit the churches. They might do a tiny bit of this or a little bit of this, like I do with the protest marches, to get the people to buy into it. But their real target would have to be the military bases. What better target than that? Then the invasion is just a piece of cake, and that's why there's no resistance, which you read about in Jeremiah 50 and 51. So the idea is probably stop the fighting, get the hostages back. The soldiers go home. The other plan that would probably happen is Hezbollah and Lebanon would probably stop the attacks because they're just trying to help Hamas, and the Houthis would stop the attacks. And then what does America do? Well, they still got to mow Iran's lawn. Or it'll keep happening. And what's headed now is closing the Mediterranean using Morocco, where IRGC troops already are, and Iran shutting the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman, and the Houthis shutting the Red Sea. And this would create worldwide economic failure and spiking oil prices through the roof, as well as shipping prices, which are up very high right now. Gold is climbing. Let's see. Gold the other day hit an all-time high of $2,060. Now, until it gets to 22 or at least $2,300 an ounce, the Americans and other countries will have the capability of suppressing the prices back down again. When it gets quite high, then they can't. They won't be able to do much about it. It's got to get out of control. And when you go buy gold on the street, not paper gold on the internet, physical gold, I understand you're paying about $50 over spot. Let's see what the current price is. Which is, again, a record. Let's see what silver did. Silver's not moving. And they've been suppressing the price of down into the low 70s. They've been doing well with that, driving the price down. They use their fiat money to manipulate the markets because they have unlimited fiat money. Silver's hanging in again at 24. It's actually down. It was 25 for a long time. I'm going to take a quick break for a minute. So silver is your best investment because when gold goes nuts, which it will, silver will probably easily triple. I'll explain that again. Okay, you see, when gold goes, when it really goes, like when countries collapse, big wars and stuff, the first resistance point is going to be 2,500. It'll go from 2074. There'll be small resistance points, 2,100, 2,200. When it breaks 2,500, things will go crazy. People are not going to buy gold. A lot of them can't afford it. What they're going to do is they're going to buy silver. Now, I'm not talking about paper silver on the stock exchange. You know, silver, you go to a store and they sell you silver. That kind of thing. And it'll be very high. I say it'll go right up to 75. It could go to $100, $200 because it's an investment. There's nothing wrong with silver. Many governments have been stockpiling gold for years, although I don't think America's one of them. China and Russia are, and India. So buying jewelry, it makes no sense. You want round. It also makes no sense to buy what's called numismatic gold or silver, which is coins that have a different additional value based on their numismatic value. And that makes no sense. Because in times of crisis, the numismatic value of these things is going to be about worthless. So it's meaningless. Okay, so what you want to do is you want gold bars or gold rounds, something like that. Okay, or silver, not numismatic. Forget stamps, they'll just plunge to zero. There won't be a post office. We're going to do it stamps. All right. Also, your dollars will soon be worthless. And your euros and pounds and rupees, shut up! All of that will be worthless when the wars start breaking out. Now, in America, people will probably use dollars when the banks are. What will happen when the trouble starts is the markets, the commodities, the futures, the stocks, the bonds, they'll all plunge and they'll shut the markets. They'll also shut gold and silver, which will be climbing through the roof. They'll close the markets. It's called suspending trading indefinitely. So people are going to lose all their money because they'll probably never open. Okay? The people that buy paper gold on the internet with the stockbrokers and stuff that don't take physical delivery, you'll never see their gold. They'll just lose all their money. Like cryptocurrency, it's a joke. Crypto will be gone too. And the banks will fail and they'll close, and people will use paper money for a brief period of time. I don't know, maybe a week to a month, and then they'll give up on that. When the banks don't open, you're not going to be able to use credit cards. If the Houthis cut the internet cables and Russia and China cut other internet cables and North Korea, forget it. There's no ATMs, there's no checks, there's no credit cards. And people will very quickly stop using paper money. It may take a few weeks. And then it's going to be barter. And the ones with the gold and silver that are still there are going to come out the best because everybody's going to want that because it's something you can hang your hat on to. It's valid across borders. It's valid in any country. If all the governments of the world fail, it's still valid. Okay. There's other precious metals that people use like rhodium, platinum, and I would stay away from that because most people don't know what it is. I wouldn't pay attention to that. Jewels, yeah, they'll be valuable, but the problem with jewels is synthetic rubies, emeralds, sapphires, and diamonds are very good. And I spoke to a jeweler I had many years ago when I was in the world, and when you look at, let's call it an emerald, the green stone, and you look at it, with a loupe or a microscope, the high quality synthetic laboratory made emeralds, you could get easily a 1 carat emerald that comes in perfect for, I don't know, $100, $200, $300. And if it was a real emerald, it'd be worth, maybe $30,000, $50,000 or something like that. So people are going to try to pass off these cheap synthetic stones as the real things. Now, many years ago, I think back in the 90s, they invented something called moissanite, which is a synthetic diamond that looks like a perfect diamond. So in other words, a 1 carat perfect diamond may be 100,000 or 50,000 or something like that. And the moissanite today is probably $200, $300, $400, $500 at most, probably 300. And it shows up as a perfect stone. The way they differentiate moissanite is by the weight. Now, you walk into a store and you come in with a perfect diamond, they're going to look at you funny because that's something you might see in Beverly Hills. The Rolls Royce pulls up. The jeweler knows the person owns a large factory or buys a lot of expensive jewels from him. He'll believe that person has a perfect diamond, okay? But not you. And he's dealing in perfect diamonds. He sees them a few times a year. He goes to shows and sees, the guy in your neighborhood ain't gonna buy it, So I would say now in maybe 5 or 8 years or 10 years ago, they came out with a new type of synthetic diamond that has the same weight as a real diamond, and they're made in a lab, and they could reproduce them as a flawless or less than flawless or a cheap looking diamond. So what this company did to protect the diamond market is they take a very tiny laser and etch information in the diamond that does not appear, it doesn't ruin the look of the diamond. But when you put it under the loop or the microscope, you read about it and it's probably a serial number of this synthetic diamond. So they know that this diamond is synthetic, and they sell these at about a third or half the price of a real diamond. Now, tell me what guarantees we have that the guys that have this technology didn't take $75 million worth of these diamonds and put them out on the market as real diamonds and not put the serial number in there. Or maybe $800 or $900 million worth. How do you know? See, diamonds are not a great investment. Neither are emeralds and sapphires in these days. They're great for decoration, but they're not a good investment. Okay. Gold and silver is really your investment. That's it. And you want them in a bar, you want them in a round. Now, they do have counterfeits of these things too. They take various metals that resemble the weight of the gold, and they take this metal, they make it look like a round coin, and then they coat it with a lot of layers of gold. So even if you scratched it, it would look like it's gold. But they put so much gold in there. It's not like gold plating a watch or a ring where you look at it and you know it's not gold color. They're going to use various chemicals to change the color of the gold, and it's going to look like real gold. Now, the way they tell the difference in these gold coins is the 1 ounce rounds, like a Krugerrand or a maple leaf. They put them in a little wood box, or it could be plastic, and they just drop it in, and it has to match the dimensions of the circle. It has to fit right in that circle. Then you pass your hand over it, and it doesn't stick up or have any ridges. So now they know the dimension and the size of the gold coin is perfect. Then they take what's called a rare earth magnet and they put it on there, because these base metals that they counterfeit these with will respond to a magnet, but gold won't. So if the magnet just slips off, that's a very good thing. And then the last piece of the puzzle is they weigh it. So they know what the 1 ounce gold round should weigh. So they check the dimensions of the 1 ounce gold round for the height and the diameter. And then they use the rare earth magnet, and then they use the weight. That's a good reason to stay away from gold. Once upon a time, I don't know, I may still have it. I had one of those little boxes you drop it in, and I had a rare earth magnet and I had a scale. But I never really bought the gold. I just got set up for it if I wanted to. And I probably have it in the house someplace, but who the heck knows where. So you could do that if you really know what you're doing. Okay. The stores, the dealers that are selling you it know how to do that. And they do it. Okay. It takes 2 or 3 minutes. You drop it in the box, make sure it fits, put the rare earth magnet on 2 or 3 places, put it on the scale. It's over in 2 minutes. And you know what you got. Now with silver, they generally don't go through these gyrations, because when you're talking about a 1 ounce gold coin worth $2,074, it's worth it if you have to spend $300 to make the counterfeit. You made $1,700 profit when you sold it. But with silver at $24 an ounce, it's not worth the time and energy. It could cost them more than $24 to make a counterfeit. Now, if you look, there probably is a way to test the weight of the 1 ounce silver and to measure the 1 ounce coins, but they may not all be in the same shape. They could have different thicknesses and stuff like that. A 1 ounce gold round is designed to just have 1 ounce of gold in it. And they stamp stuff on it like maple leaf, which is Canada, Krugerrand, which is South Africa, or the panda, which is China, and then there's America has a double eagle and stuff like that. All right, so with silver, it's not that uniform. A lot of silver coins are not 1 ounce, and anyway, silver's a safer bet. So I would say precious stones. You don't know what the heck you're buying. You don't know nothing. Why? They can make counterfeit emeralds, rubies, sapphires, and diamonds that are as good as the original. So what do you want to even mess with that? And the 1 ounce gold coins are easily counterfeited. Now the gold bars of various size can be counterfeited easily too. The cost of counterfeiting these things is high because you have to create alloys that dye the gold covering to look like real gold, and you got to put enough of it on there that the base metal inside this counterfeit coin or bar doesn't affect the appearance. And then you got to make the weight pretty close, which is near impossible, but they could get it in the ballpark so it'll feel right. And then you got to get the dimensions right. So you got to make molds, and it's a lot of time and trouble. But if you're going to make $1,700 a coin, it's worth going into production, and it may only cost them $100 to make it, really. So the profit margins are just about as good as making counterfeit money. It's counterfeit gold. They can make bars, they can make rounds, they could copy coins. They use lasers to make a mold to make it look exactly like the original coin. And this is another reason why numismatics is bogus. And stamp collectors or philatelists, whatever the word is, PHIL word is, also stupid. Because you can counterfeit. Well, stamps is a little harder because of the paper and the ink, and it shows the age. So I imagine on stamps it's probably much harder to pass off a good counterfeit. But how the heck are you going to tell? They take a rare coin, let's say it's a 1900 San Francisco mint silver dollar or whatever from some other mint that's worth a lot of money. They take cheap silver dollars and melt the silver down so they have perfect silver, right? They use a laser to etch a mold so they have the exact coin, right? The mold. Then they pour the real silver dollar silver into the mold, and they got the mold. And they got a real silver dollar with real silver. How are you going to tell the difference? There's no serial numbers. Well, the authentication services do it. Yeah, you're going to trust them? If they were not crooked and corrupt, they wouldn't exist. Remember, the SBOTs only use systems they can corrupt. There wouldn't be any betting on anything, gambling or betting, if it couldn't be corrupted. It wouldn't exist. Remember that. So numismatics are stupid, okay? Not worth it. There's other things people, will have, like jewelry made out of gold and silver with precious stones will have a lot of value. Necklaces, watches, rings, they'll have value. People will want that. Can you counterfeit jewelry? Sure, but you could also tell what's not counterfeit by kind of eyeballing. I mean, it's going to have value. It may not. The pure is going to be gold and silver bullion or round coins, Now, if you see numismatic coins, like silver dollars with a year on it and stuff like that, I wouldn't pay a premium for them, and there probably won't be much premium in demand anymore. I would just treat it as a 1 ounce silver, and the chances of them counterfeiting a 1 ounce old silver dollar by using counterfeit silver is extremely minimal, because with numismatics, they take a cheap silver dollar from that's general genre a year, 1860, 1890. So it matches the silver that was used that day, which is probably the same that they use today. Melt it, pour it in the mold, and that's it. Then go to a coin show and sell it to somebody. But they all want you to get them authenticated. So you send it into the authentication service, and they may or may not authenticate it. You're going to want to know the history of the coin where you got it. And if you say my great grandfather had it, they're going to probably not authenticate it. They're in business to support the dealers. If the dealer says I bought it from some guy whose great grandfather had it, and they do a lot of business with this authentication service, they'll authenticate it for him, not you. They're there like the credit bureau is there to service the merchants and the banks. The authentication services are there to service the auction houses and the dealers, not you. Okay. I hope some of you found that useful. Let me check the chat. Okay. If you want to hide metal coins or firearms, your best bet is to go out in the middle of the night and dig yourself a hole in your backyard if you have a backyard. They sell plastic piping with screw-on caps that's waterproof for this particular purpose. You can find them on the internet, and you put your coin. You have different sizes. You put your coins, your rifle, your pistol. They have different sizes, length and thickness, and you put whatever you want in there. I would put it inside 2 plastic bags that you could seal. Nothing's going to happen to gold. Silver will get tarnished, but it'll be fine. But gold won't even tarnish. Put it in there and seal it, and then stick it in the ground, and then take random pieces of metal, a few coins, nuts, screws, and strew them about your yard, pressing them down into the ground with like a piece of dowel or a long screwdriver. So if anybody comes with a metal detector, which is most unlikely, they're going to get a lot of false positives, and they're probably not going to sit there and go through your yard looking for stuff. If you happen to have a 20,000 square foot house with some Rolls Royces and Ferraris, they may really get vigorous and look around for that. Another way to do it is you can break the concrete in your garage and put it in the ground under the concrete of the garage, and then repair the concrete and try to get it to match as perfectly as you can, which may involve painting over it. Make note, like with measurements, where it is, and then keep a sledgehammer around, and just time comes to leave, just smash the concrete open, grab your stash, and take off. If you were a big subject of the DEA or the FBI, they might come in and, consider breaking the concrete or something, but it's not going to really happen to you. Other ideas are not as effective. Now, you could buy a safe. They have in-ground safes. They're cylindrical. They're usually about this long and maybe 9 inches, 8, 9 inches wide. So you dig your hole, under the concrete. You pour concrete in there, and you jam this into the concrete, and you got to make sure it stays positioned till the concrete dries. You could use quick dry concrete, hold it for a little while, or prop it with wood, and then when it's in, you lock the safe, and then you cover. You got to remember the combination, and then cover it with more concrete. But you don't want the concrete on the safe. So what you want to do is put a board, like probably a 1/2 inch board, over the safe. Make sure the concrete doesn't get onto the board. Okay. So you might want to put some, 2 or 3 pieces of heavy plastic tarp over the safe, and then put a board in there, or boards, so the concrete doesn't get in, and then pour the concrete back and make the floor of your garage over, and then repaint it. Who's going to find it? You just remember it's 3 feet from the right wall and 6 feet from the rear, and that's your target. You take your sledge and you're back in. It takes a few minutes to break the concrete. That's all. Putting it in the walls is not a good idea if the house is going to burn. Keeping it as safe is a bad idea. There's a gun up the back of your head. Open the safe or I'll kill you. You don't do it, then you say, well, you'll never get in if you do that. Then they shoot you in the foot or the knee, and then you open it up because you don't want your other knee shot. So that's not a good idea. Okay. So even if the house burned and you had it in a cylindrical safe under the concrete in the ground, maybe, a foot under the ground, the heat's not going to get down there and melt the gold or anything like that. That's ridiculous. It'll never happen. It's just not going to happen, especially in a garage. I don't think it would work. You could also take the house and get extra tile, break a piece of tile, do the hole. You'll find under the tile concrete, break through the concrete, do it under your house, make note of which tile it is, have a replacement tile, put the concrete back again, making sure you don't get the safe. The other thing you could do is you could just leave the concrete away, not put the concrete back, and you have your safe, your plastic cylinder there, right? And don't put the concrete there, just put some boards there for support, and then put the tile back in. And who's going to know? The tile should hold. If you walk on the tile, it's not going to break, especially with boards underneath it. So you don't even need to use the concrete again. So these are, some ideas. I used to study this years ago. You could do. Safes are not. Safes are good for civilized times. You go out of your house, you take a trip, you have a really good safe, you have an alarm system. The regular gun safes you buy are crap. You could open them up with fire axes and all kinds of things. Sawzalls, they're no good. Angle grinders, open them, everything. They're junk. You can get in a few minutes. There's, I don't remember the name of the safe. One of the, I think Chuck Yeager, the pseudo-astronaut, was promoting a certain line of safes. I bought one where they have a regular gun safe, but a darn good one. And then inside, they put an extra layer of space from the outer wall, maybe an inch or 1/2 inch or something. I think it's 1/4 inch stainless steel liner, which is a problem to get into. So a lot of the conventional tools will get through the first safe. Then you got to get through that safe wall, and you start hitting this other piece of stainless steel. And you make sure you get the stainless, not just the metal. The stainless is much harder to cut. And the sawzall starts getting stuck, and it breaks. And the angle grinder also starts wearing the blades out, and it breaks. And you're not going to do any good with an axe on their safes. That's and they're good for fires. And that's if the firemen are going to come. The fire rating is usually, a brief period of time, because you figure the fire department will come and start hosing everything down. But if everything breaks down, these fire ratings, unless you have the really extreme ones, the best safes are called ceramic. They're made out of a powder with a thin metal layer around them on both sides, and there's a ceramic powder in there. You can't use an angle grinder. You can't use a sawzall. You can't use an axe. You can't use a torch. The only thing that works on them is explosives. And the chances of you encountering somebody that's going to blow your safe up is about nil. You're going back to John Dillinger days where they were blowing safes. Okay, and those safes were nothing like what you're dealing with today. And they knew what they were doing, and they would blow the lock or the door or something like that. The hardest place to get into a safe is the door. The easiest place to get into a safe is the bottom or the back panels or the side panels, maybe, or the top. The door is the worst place. So that's the last place they're going to go break in. The other way to get good safes is go to guys that sell used safes. They have a lot of old supermarket safes where they would drop the money in a slot. And these safes have an outer and an inner safe. So the manager could get to the inner, the workers could get to the outer. And these are usually 15-minute rated safes. That means the company takes the blueprint to the safe, has all the tools laid out. They turn a timer on and they got 15 minutes to break into the safe, knowing exactly how to do it with the tools. And if the tool breaks, they stop the clock. He replaces the tool, they start it up. Chances of somebody breaking into your 20,000 square foot mansion in Beverly Hills with the Rolls Royces and Ferraris in the driveway knowing how to do this are pretty high. Chances of somebody breaking in any of your houses that knows how to get into one of these things is about zero or almost zero. So those are usually not very expensive, the old supermarket safes. Then they have other safes that have a 30-minute rating, and then they go all the way up to an hour rating. The hour rating are what the insurance companies require if you're going to have millions of dollars of stuff in there to insure, like jewelry and things like that. They're very expensive. Years ago, they were 10 grand. They're probably 14, 15 grand now. And they weigh a ton. But the only way you get in there is to blow it up. They're ceramic typically. You could also bolt your safe into the floor if there's concrete in there, and that's going to make it harder, and bolt the back into the walls so they can't move the safe and get to the bottom of the back, and that makes things easier. They're great in regular times. You go away on vacation, the chances of somebody getting in are pretty nil. You have an alarm on the house. When you get the alarm, you don't want to have just the telephone hook up. You want to have a radio from them. They all have radios. So if they cut the phone lines, the radio sends a signal and then the cops come. But today the cops don't come when burglar alarms go off in many cities. So what are you going to do? But the average guy that's breaking into a house is a too big punk that needs a fix or something like that, or just a low life. And they see a safe, they may try smacking it with some tools if they have them, and that's it. You want to make sure that if you go away and you have the safe and you have good tools like angle grinders and sawzalls and stuff like that, you hide them so these guys don't find your tools and then break into your safe. But the regular gun safe is garbage. The regular little safes are junk. There's a thing you can buy called plate safe. Okay, you want to get 1-inch hardened steel. They take these plates and they weld them together, and the weld is extremely strong. And they build a door with internal hinges for it. And they put some sort of a push button electrical lock on there that's you can't really get through with a computer dialer or anything like that. And these things are not fire resistant, and they are near impossible to get into unless you use a torch. And the chances of somebody coming to your house with an acetylene torch and the mask and the equipment and sitting there and trying to burn it for 10 minutes to get through is about zero. Because if the jerk breaking into your house had enough money to have the torch equipment, which is usually 2 tanks of gas and the torch and the hood with the glass to protect his son. If he had that, he wouldn't be breaking into your house. The ones that are breaking in need a fix. They don't have anything, So if you find a guy that sells plate safes, they're not fireproof, but they work. The worst safe is the gun safes. Those are going to protect you from, like, if you have a cleaning lady come to the house, she's not going to be able to get into the safe comfortably when you're in the house. Workmen are not going to be able to sneak over there and open up the stuff like they could get out of a drawer. You could keep guns in there and the kids aren't going to be able to get in there. Okay. And if you've got a good alarm system in times of peace and the response time from your police is maybe 5 minutes, or I lived in a place once called Sausalito. If you have a fast response time from the police, yeah, the gun safe could work. The alarm triggers, they got to sit there and start hacking it and peeling the metal with an axe. They need an axe. Where they're going to get it, make sure not from your garage. And they don't go breaking into houses carrying big axes and heavy tools with them. They get picked up, searched. It's carrying burglar tools. They can come into the system for that. So, yeah, then it's going to work okay. Figure it's going to take them, the average jerks, probably a half hour to 45 minutes to get that thing open. So if you've got, and you hid your Sawzall and your angle grinder and stuff like that, it's going to take them a long time to smash it open. Okay. I know a story of this, the locksmith told me this grandmother had a gun safe and she had all sorts of junk in it. And her grandson and a friend came over there when she was away for the weekend and they were in the house. And they worked on the safe all weekend and never got it open. They damaged it, but they never got it open. So there's a problem with, jerks that don't have the right tools. But if they have a Sawzall or a good angle grinder with diamond blade, they're not going to get in. So make sure you don't give it to them. If you have them, hide them in lock and key someplace. Make sure they don't find them. Okay. You got to make sure of that. And you also want to make sure the safe is bolted to the walls and the floor so they don't cart it off on you, put it in a pickup, and then go to work on it someplace. So make sure it's bolted in, and it should work, But remember, if you're home and they're vicious, like terrorists, they'll just tell you open it, and they'll start shooting you until you open it, or they'll shoot your family. So when you're home and you get overrun, it doesn't work. But if the safe is buried under the concrete in the garage or the house, you can buy a decoy safe, which is your gun safe, and put it in a closet or someplace, the garage, even somewhere where they're going to see it, and keep some money in there, some coins, some junky guns, or stuff that looks like it might be valuable, artificial jewelry, for instance. They're not going to tell the difference. And let them have that. But make sure there's some cash in there, too, so they could go buy a fix. By cash, maybe $150 to $300, depending on you. So they're going to have that, and they're going to grab the cash and just get out of there. You want them to go away. So that's another way to deal with them. Let them grab the cash and leave. Okay? That's a decoy safe. Even if you get broken into and overrun, you could say, yeah, I'll open the safe here, and they find some costume jewelry. They're not going to know if it's real or not. Artificial Rolexes or something like that. They don't know. They're not going to know what it is. Synthetic diamond rings or something, you get rid of them. They grab the stuff and they'll just take off, All right. Take a break and we're going to go into the Jubilee year again. I got a couple of insights, big ones. Not massive, but you'll find it super interesting. I'm I'm not reversing my position. I'm expounding upon it, elaborating. All right. So this is what I was shown this morning. Daniel 9:4 has the 270s, okay? And they translated erroneously 99.9% of the people out there translate it as 70 weeks. And I've told you this so many times. I've showed you the Hebrew characters. All the Hebrew translations agree, all the original Hebrew agrees. They're not translations. The word is shavim, which means 70. Sheva is 7. Shavim means 70. Hamesh is 5. Hamashim is 50. Getting the idea? Tesher is 9. Teshim is 90. Shavim is 70. So it says 70, 70 on your people in the holy city. To Daniel, which is the Jews in Jerusalem. Okay? Now I thought, I'm thinking, wait a minute. I thought it was 70 years, the second 70. The first 70 was Babylonian captivity. I thought the second 70 was 70 years, which starts in 67 in my reckoning, which is when they had all of Jerusalem. But they had part of Jerusalem in 48. So, I mean, what I was shown today is that it's not 70 years, it's 70 Jubilee years. Yeah. Yesterday, what the Lord showed me is Zechariah 12 and Ezekiel 34, which is going to happen before Zechariah 12. Perfectly match what happens in a Jubilee year. They get the land, they get the internal, and the internal yoke is gone in Ezekiel 34. When you get to Zechariah 12, there is no government or IDF anymore. The two witnesses are running it. When you see Malachi 3, Elijah is training the Levites to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord. Now, this requires a little bit of looking at it to get the whole picture here, because it's deep. So Malachi 3, behold, I will send my Malach, or messenger, play on words with the title of the book. Malach's name is Malach. Malach is Malachi. And they made it in English, they twisted it. And he shall, they just didn't know how to pronounce it. And he shall prepare the way before me. Well, that's messenger preparing the way before me is the actual literal Elijah. John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah. He's Elijah, one of the two witnesses. And the Lord, which is Adonai, which is not Jehovah, the word, whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. Now, that's the glory of God of Israel, who was with the children of Israel, with Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. It's Michael. In Exodus 23, the Lord puts his name, Jehovah, in this angel, so he could receive the offerings in place of Jehovah and many other things. And he resides in the next temple. And it says, shall suddenly. Now, what's the word for suddenly? Pitom. And what does that mean? According to Strong's, let's go with Strong. Instantly, straightway, suddenly, got it? Come to his temple. So the temple was there first. Well, how could he come to it? Right? The word for come is 935, it's bo. So if I want to call a dog in Hebrew, I say bo po or bola po. Bo po, come here, or sloppy, or boiler po. Say it, boy. Boiler po would mean come to this me or something like that. But you could say either way. Okay, so come means come to his temple. Now the word for temple is, this word is a different word. It's heikal, which Strong's interprets as a palace or a temple. It's a temple. It's another way of saying it, the temple. Even the Malach of the covenant, that's Elijah, because the Jews understand Elijah will come and teach them the Torah, the real Torah, not the Talmud. Whom you delight in. They delight in Elijah because they set a place setting for him every Pesach, every Passover. They pour him a glass of wine, put a plate. Many have chairs with his name on it. They have silverware for him. They even leave the door open if it's safe so he can come in. It's a myth. He doesn't do that, of course. Whom you delight in, behold, he shall come. Speaking of Elijah. But who may abide the day of his coming? Here comes the Ezekiel 34. And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem, see, that's not greater Israel, that's the land we have now only, be pleasant unto Jehovah. We don't even have all of Judah. Be pleasant unto Jehovah as in the days of old, as in the former years. Now, let's keep reading. And I will come near to you to judgment, to you to judgment. Now, let's break the words, because it says, and I will come near. Let's see what it really says. Karib. How does Strong's treat this word? approach. Okay, so it's just saying one thing. Approach, to or toward. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's working out. Approach towards, and it says you to judgment. Let's see what this word really means. Mishpat. Whoops. Wait a minute. It got moved. Come on, where did it go? I touched the screen. Okay, I will come near to judgment. So the word for that is 4941, mishpat, and what's the best strong? What does Strong's call it? A verdict. It's judgment. Yeah, they got it right. And I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, against the adulterers, and against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his. They added in his wage. Well, no, the wages word is there. The widow and the fatherless, and that turn aside the strangers from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. This is Ezekiel 34, the bad shepherds and the fat big cattle. This is Ezekiel 34. They're cut off at this time. Elijah gets rid of them. And the Lord. Now, let's take a look at Zechariah 13, 8, and 9, if you could remember what I just read you, which you should. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, that's called Haaretz, land of Israel, saith the Lord, two parts therein shall be cut off, that's dead, and die. It says, and die. But the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. Well, this is very, very similar to Elijah doing this with the Levites. And you see in Malachi 3, the bad ones are cut off. So it's apparently at around the same time, because who can stand? It's saying, in his presence. So it's apparently the same type of event happening in a similar time frame. We're very close together. And it's the ones that don't fear Jehovah are even going to get cut off. For I am Jehovah, I change not. Basically, it's the spots that don't fear Jehovah. Therefore I change not. Therefore, sons of Jacob are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers, you are gone away from the ordinances and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of hosts. But ye said, wherein shall we return? And then he goes about not giving the offerings, the tithes and the offerings, which many people that follow me for a long time believe in not giving offerings also. And it says they're robbing God. Then they don't believe that. They just start accusing me of being a Copeland when I say that. So would I be a better preacher if I never mentioned it to them and just let them go to the lake of fire? Or would it be better for me to keep reminding them of that so they don't go to the lake of fire? You can answer that. All right. So the 70 Jubilee theory, I did some research and I've got to do more, so I can't give it to you yet. But it appears from the scriptures you could tell some dates, like, and there's some people that have done this work and adjusted it for the correct biblical year. And it appears they know, like, I think it's 1026 BC. I'm not sure. I think that's it. When Joshua entered the land. And I have to put this together, and I couldn't do it this morning because it's a big job. And that would give you the first Jubilee year. And then when you get that from scripture, I think there's another one. They have two they can define from the actual Bible being Jubilee years. And then you can multiply it by, 70 biblical Hebrew years, and you wind up in 2024. How's them apples? I got to dig more into it, but it never occurred to me that the 70, it says 70, 70. The first 70 was 70 years. The second 70 is also 70 years, but Jubilee years. That's why it says Daniel is a sealed book. But since these are the days of Elijah, we're unsealing it, aren't we? Aren't we doing that? Would I ever have thought of that if Jehovah didn't give it to me? I don't think so. Would you? I never would have thought of it. I know they got crazy theories. They work out 4,900 years or 470, stuff like that. Now, the people that seem to be aware of this being Jubilee years don't understand that 70 weeks is not 70 weeks, it's 270s because they don't know Hebrew. So I have to double check this word. Now, the Lord showed me that it was Jubilee years first. Then I went back to see if anybody worked out the timing, and several have 2024. See, the despots and the non-believers know things of the world. They know how to do calendars. They know how to do languages. They know how to do money, economics, history. So they can do this. And I have a feeling they're right because I came up with 2024, but I didn't get it from the internet. I got it from the Lord. He was showing me that what happens in Zechariah 12 is we get land back, we get the internal and the external yokes off our neck, we get the temple, we get the glory God of Israel, we get the two judges. Everybody is free of their debts in Israel because the banking system's gone. We'll be using gold and silver. And we don't have to buy our land. That's our inheritance, and we get it for freely. You were taken away without money. You sold yourself without money, and now you're going to be redeemed without money. So we're getting land and probably houses that were already constructed, just like in the days of Joshua entered the land. And we're going to have the houses and the furniture and all that stuff without buying it. And then with the food, with 2/3 cut off, I imagine there'll be a lot of food around here. And God will take care of that. But I mean, we weren't observing it correctly, like in the 6th year of the Shemitah, we didn't get a large harvest, so we wouldn't have to take care of the land and work it in the 7th, the Shemitah year, the 7th, and then the Jubilee, because Israel's not going to be restored really, or the process of being restored is significantly going to start with this Jubilee year. Do I think it has to happen on the first day of Jubilee? No. Could it happen 10 days later or on a feast day during the Jubilee year? Within it can. But I think things will start to change on the first day of this Jubilee year, which will be late February, like, 7 weeks or 8 weeks from now or something like that. Okay. Could even be 9 weeks. It could be 6.5 weeks, something like that. We'll know because the new moon sliver will be spotted, and that starts the new month, which in essence would begin the new year at that time, and then we'll know what's cooking. Now, don't buy into any of this 13th month garbage with the agriculture. Okay, they never observed the 13th month in the Bible anywhere. There's no clear reference to it in the entire Bible, in not a single place. That theory is developed by implication and assumptions. It's not, never says that. God never refers to his year as having 12 or 13th months. Some of these clowns even go a 14th month. They call it an intercalculated year. There's no such thing. It's false teachers teaching it. Only if it was true, they wouldn't teach it. It's just the people that have taught it for years are despots, So don't buy the 13th month. There's no 13th month. If there was, you'd never be able to calculate the years or do anything like that. Just throw it out the window. Don't bother with that. What feast day might it start on? I don't know. We're talking about not a feast day here. We're talking about a Jubilee year. It's a year. And again, it overlaps the year of recompenses, which the Lord plainly told me began on or around August 1st. So this will start someplace around the 1st of March, give or take a few days one way or the other. So it'll be during the year of recompenses, and it will run its own year starting at the end of February or early March. It'll run its own year. And that will get us concretely on the Bible calendar without having to rely on history books and stuff like that. But the Bible does seem to indicate when they went into the promised land. I'm going to dig deep into that. It's going to take a lot of time. I will dig deep into that, and I will check the merit of it. But irrespective of what I find, I was shown this year when the Zechariah 12 happens, it'll throw us into the year of Jubilee. Well, it'll be the, will that be the year of redemption? Maybe not. Because the redemption, as I told you, could be on the great day of the Lord. But I think I'm not sure yet. The day of vengeance is tied to year of recompenses and year of redemption. So there could be two different years, but it's probably going to be the year of redemption beginning, okay? Where our land is going to be redeemed. So we're probably going to start the year of redemption then. And the Zechariah 12 may very likely happen in both years. Why? The recompenses, the surrounding countries that lay siege to us get killed. They get burned up by the two witnesses, right? And then we get the land. I assume we're not going to just let the land rot. We're going to move in. And Elijah will be making the sacrifices acceptable unto the Lord by training the Levites and getting rid of the bad ones. And when the sacrifices are acceptable, then we'll have the blessings of the law, which could be when the glory God of Israel shows up suddenly to the temple. Elijah could be using the temple to teach them in the altar. And then when they start with the acceptable sacrifices, boom, the glory God of Israel shows up suddenly. Then the blessings of the law would be on Israel, and then the enemies get burned up. This kind of sequence. It all fits together, if you follow me. Let me go back on my notes here. They say that in 1406 BC, um, it was a Jubilee year, good fit, because Joshua entered the land. But they could have it wrong. But the fact that they worked it out to 2024 is rather astounding. So I think whatever they did it the right way. All right, Tyre and Sidon. They're both located in Lebanon. Okay. Tyre is 20 miles south of Sidon and only 12 miles north of the Israel border. So it appears that they both could be in this 15-mile distance that Israel wants to impose from the UN from our border. Let's take a look and see if I can find a map and check that. So I don't really know if it's true. I'm just taking a shot. Let's see. Shouldn't be that hard. Let's see. Map, Tyre, Lebanon. I don't know if they still call it Tyre. I have a feeling they do. It's Tyre. Well, that's a lousy map. Let me expand. Well, let me get a better map. It's just junky. So Tyre appears to be a current city. Let's run a distance. It appears more than 15 miles away. So I don't think that is going to hold water. Well, they're giving me distance to Tel Aviv, which is not any good. Let me try looking for distance to Israeli border. I'm still looking here. And let me get a biblical map. Try that. I just eyeball it. Make sure the current Tyre is in the same location as it was biblically. Um, all right, I see the Galilee. And where the heck is Sidon? Oh, those were like provinces. Map's not helping. Okay, get it a better one. Okay, I need to find the border. What the heck? There might be a chance Tyre fits in with the 15 miles, but Sidon, it doesn't appear to be in the 15 miles. So that was a nice thought, but it doesn't seem to be holding up. So it's more than that. So Israel's going to probably have to push in more than the 15 miles, which they're probably going to do. All right, so why is this important? Let's go to Joel 3. And we learn a lot from this, as you'll see. It opens up a lot of stuff. Joel 3, verse 1, we'll start. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. Now that sets the stage for 1948, I guess. You could even say 1917, but let's go with 48. I think it's better. And I will also gather all the goyim, the heathen, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them. It doesn't say plead. The word is 8199 in Hebrew. Shaphat is a decent pronunciation for that. And Strong says sentence or against, judge or sentence. So he's finishing them up then. He's delivering the sentence to them. And will not pronouncing the sentence, delivering it. And will plead with them. The plead word is sentence them there for my people and for my heritage. He's judging them for my heritage, Israel, whom he says heritage because Israel's our inheritance, the land. For my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and have parted my land. So he has an axe to grind with them for the past. And they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Now, this appears to me to be in the past, and I don't think it'll happen in the future, although in October 7th, nothing like this exactly happened, but it was not exactly. No, it didn't happen this way. The Muzzies don't drink and stuff like that. Okay. Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Sidon? That's what we call Lebanon today. And all the coasts of the Palestinian of Palestine, will you render me a recompense? Now, this is highly accurate to today. Hezbollah is giving Israel, which is his, he says, render me a recompense, Israel. He has a controversy with the nations over Zion. They're attacking us because we're attacking Hamas. Why are we attacking Hamas? Well, they killed like 1,450 people and took them hostage and raped them and burned them alive and stuff like that on October 7th. Got it? Plus gazillions of rockets at us after that. All right. What have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Sidon? They have nothing to do with him. And all the coasts of Palestine, that's Gaza. Will you render me a recompense, a payback? Well, it's the word for recompense is gamal, and Strong refers to it as a treatment. It could be a reward. I would think it's a payback, a reward. It's a negative reward. Render me a recompense, and if you or ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head. They have done that. They're shooting at us every day, shoulder fire rockets, missiles, rockets, bullets, mortars, every day. Because you have taken my silver and my gold, I believe that's a throwback, and have carried into your temples my goodly, pleasant things. I would say that's a throwback. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that you might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them out of the places whither you have sold them, and will. Now that's happened with the Exodus. People have been coming since 1917, 1948. It got higher, of course. So I'll raise them out of the place where you have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. Is this not today? I mean, how could this not be today? I don't understand. Let's keep going. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. Does it say sell? Let's see. I will sell. Let's check the word. 4376. Mikar. Yeah, it's like merchandise, sell merchandise. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. That would be us. And they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, which would be Africans. Holy moly, that's what Israel plans to do with the Palestinians. Give them money and send them to Africa, which is Sabaeans. But Israel doesn't sell them, they give them money. That's the intention now. Maybe it changes to we sell them. Holy moly. Shocking, but great. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah. So God is going to sell them. He's not going to require money from us. I think he's just making a play on words. And they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, to a people far off, for Jehovah hath spoken it. So I guess somehow, some way, shape, or form, what we're planning for the Gazans is going to happen to the Lebanese, which makes me think we are going to be invading the place. Proclaim you this among the Goyim, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords. Now I think we're into the great day of the Lord, where they've already turned their swords into plowshares. Now they're reversing it. Okay? And your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened. The mighty ones come down. The word for come down is nakat. Go down, descend. Strong says what? Lead down, press down, descend. Come down is fine. Cause thy mighty ones to come down. That's probably the two witnesses. They're already here. Let the heathen be wakened. It could be referencing the angels too. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. And this is not Zechariah 12. This would be the great day of the Lord. Put you in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near. That's the falling away, Ezekiel 38:39, Zechariah 14, Ezekiel 8-11, and book of Joel, which I'm in now. The day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and then the stars shall not withdraw their shining. That's the actual day of the Lord. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice. Roar out of Zion. That's probably where they got that song in the 70s, I Am Woman, Watch Me Roar. Probably got it from here. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But Jehovah will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So you shall know that I am Jehovah Elohim, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her any more. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters, and a fountain shall come forth out of the house. Well, you think he's talking about Netanyahu's house or the next temple, which the glory of God lives in, so it's called his house. It does. and water will come out. Go back. Come forth of the house of the Lord, and shall water the valley of Shittim. This is the next temple. Now, this may happen before the great day of the Lord when the glory of God returns to the temple, and it may happen before as well. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. For the violent, now I don't know the timing on this. It doesn't look like Egypt's going to come down in the next few weeks, but you never know. Edom is a possibility, but again, you never know. Now, the year of recompenses will be continuing into the year of redemption. So we got a while to go on that until the summer. So it could very well happen very soon. It says that Egypt will be scared, badly scared of us. So they could come after us after Zechariah 12. Probably do. Against the children of Judah because they shed innocent blood in their land. But Judah shall dwell forever. So much for the Antichrist doing us in. And Jerusalem from generation to generation. So much for us getting run out of Jerusalem. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed. So some are saved and some aren't. For the Lord dwelling in Zion. Cool, huh? So we just got a really heavy duty look at what's going to happen in Lebanon. And I think it's also going to happen to those in Gaza. Now Biden has his plans, Netanyahu has his plans, and Jehovah has his. Who do you think's going to win but Jehovah? So we may be, I told you there's slavery when we get restored, redeemed. So they made slaves out of us, and we'll make slaves out of them. That's the recompense. Yes, it is. I have a feeling America is going to be one of the first, if not the first country to have the big second exodus. It's called the Harvest, Daughter of Babylon Harvest. I believe it'll probably come first. You getting out of there? There's something the Lord wants me. Prayer requests. Okay, this is not a prayer request. This is a toss request. Okay, toss request for GF Golf Foxtrot. GF Golf Foxtrot toss. MO Mike Oscar toss. So the toss request to Demon Toss is GF Golf Foxtrot and also for Mike Oscar Demon Toss. Now, prayer request, not a toss, a prayer request. Okay. JC. It's this person's name is not Jesus Christ. It's just coincidence. Okay. So J as in Jew and C as in Charlie. Okay. JC. Jew Charlie. How's that? Okay. They don't say that in the military. Prayer to have no need to crack their bones. This person's cracking their bones a lot, and make the prayer is to make the need and the desire to keep cracking the bones go away. So it's for JC, Jew Charlie, pray, have no need or desire to crack the bones anymore. Okay. Let me check the live stream. Where did it go? There. See if I have any questions and things. The piercing of our Father. Gee, I never read of Jehovah getting pierced. Okay. All right. So I told you. All right. So I think I covered what I was going to cover today. If you guys, for offerings, it's easier for me to get the money into Israel if you use PayPal. The others, it's a long, burdensome process. It's easier if you use PayPal. So if you can use PayPal, let me know. To get the PayPal link, just drop me an email and I'll send it to you. I don't want to post it up here because then you get blasted with all kinds of spam and garbage and junk. And, I don't want to be bothered with it. Okay. Messages and PayPal from crazy people. And, so just send me an email. Okay. My email address is at the lowest line down in the description box, and it's also put up in the chat. It's Israel Giving, one word, with the number 7 at the end. Israel Giving with the number 7 at gmail.com. Israel Giving 7 at gmail.com. And I'll send you the link by email. Okay. If you Telegram to get the blow by blow to the wars and all the stuff I update a good 100 times a day, just drop me an email and put Telegram in the subject header. You have to download the app Telegram Messenger. The Apple Store has it, and I think the Play Store has it for Android. It's pretty easy to get. It's not hard. And it's all free. The app's free, everything's free. Okay? And I also put Bible studies and stuff up there too. So Biden and Netanyahu could be really having a falling out, and Biden plans on just letting Netanyahu go. He's not going to try to shore him up because Netanyahu keeps going back on his word on Biden, so he'd rather have Gantz. So I think he may have already told that to Gantz, and it looks like it's going to happen. That's why we withdrew 5 divisions or battalions of soldiers and the reserves away from Gaza, and that's why the Gerald Ford is leaving. They're not going to push this right now. I don't think Biden feels comfortable invading the Houthis. See, there's a snare in a plan, but in the plan, you have North Korea, China, Iran, America, Russia, Cuba, Venezuela, Belarus, and they can be having disagreements as to what to do when. And Biden seems dead bent on keeping that border open. So he wants something else in place before he proceeds. And I don't know what that is yet. Maybe it's just sheer volume. He wants more. I don't know. Okay. But there's millions of these sleeper agent Trojans running around in America. It's in the millions. And I don't know why he needs more, but I'm not privy to it. Maybe they got to hit 90 or 120 or so military bases in America. Let's see how many bases they have. Never checked that. Let's see. Should be easy to get. 450 to 500. Wow. That's that's more than I thought. So let's use the 500. So how many do you need to overrun a base? Well, if we did it in a small way, we would just say 3,000, but that's, I think, not very high. And that gives you 1.5 million. But if you were going to do it in a big way, I don't know what the figure would be. Let's say 5,000, which is not that much. You got 2.5 million. And they got to be doing other things too. So that explains why Biden's keeping the borders open, doesn't it? He wants to have overwhelming odds for these people overrun the military base. But not every one of these characters is going to be active. They're going to be doing many other things to support the other ones. So if they're going to need, let's even say 2 million or 2.5 million to support, let's say 3,000 per base, which is minimalistic, I guess, or something, or 5,000 is probably more realistic. They're going to probably have to have 25, 30% of them are going to be doing support. Injuries, getting weapons ready for them, communications ready, working in command centers, coordination, getting supplies, equipment, and, coordinating with Iran, Russia, China, all of this. So yeah, that's probably why Biden wants the border open. He needs to probably bring in another 500,000 or 1,000,000 illegals, sleeper agents. So that's probably why it's open. He's going to hang on and bring another bunch of them in. That's what he's doing. Yeah. Okay, so pray about our roof. Pray that we get some sort of solution for it and the rains don't do our roof in. So pray we don't have enough rain to damage the roof. It was really horrible the last time. We had buckets of water coming out of the house. The landlord will never fix it, that I could imagine. So I don't see us moving. It'd be so hard on us, and because we're old and busted up and stuff. And I don't know what the gain would be, because the next landlord is going to be just as much of a bad person. See, there's a lot of houses in Israel that they don't rent. Like, I know this across the street from me, I haven't seen anybody step foot in that house, throw a light switch on in perhaps 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. And they're not renting it. See, it's the black hearts, the ones that are man after Satan's own heart. They like being landlords. They love it. And they like picking on foreigners that are not native born Israelites. They pick on them much worse. That's the scripture, turn the stranger from his right. That's what they do. So they get real soon. So please pray about that for us. Okay, fixing the roof is a rather expensive proposition. It would run $6,000 probably to do the whole roof. We've had people quote us or something like that. So I'm thinking that we might be able to have somebody lay plastic tarps down. We had that already, but they seem to not be in place. Or put some sealer on there, or both, or something, just to get through the winter. And then see how that goes. So that's not that much money. So pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, happiness, healing of our bodies, She's still walking around with a knee elastic brace on it. So please pray for her knee, Rivka's knee, to get healed. Keep the prayers coming for me, for my eyes and the hernia, please. And pray for our finances. And many thanks to those that are giving the offerings. It's much appreciated. You'll share in the rewards of this work if you get the drift of that. Hopefully you do. And pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues. They be happy, healthy, and whole. And peace of Jerusalem. And please pray for better videos. And the Lord gives me more insights. Although they've been pretty plentiful. And I will start whittling away at the the 70 Jubilees landing on 2024. But the one source I found, the best source on that, did adjust the years for the biblical years. So it's probably going to prove true. He said he found 2 places in the Bible where you could determine they were Jubilee years and get the chronology. So I'll look at that too. But when this guy did it, it was a long time ago. It wasn't. Actually, it was based on a book, I think, that came out in the 1960s. He read the book. And so it's not something brand new. Somebody just worked it out. But remember, SBOTs can work with things like history and language, stuff like that. But it is pretty interesting. I never heard the guy say how he figured out from Daniel that it was Jubilee years. And he's running around calling, well, I don't know, but Zechariah 12 appears dead on to have all the attributes of the Jubilee year. And it looks to me, since we know the year of recompenses started around August 1st, that this late February or early March is going to start the Jubilee year. I would not imagine otherwise. So thank you for the offerings. Thank you for all the prayers. And they help. I appreciate them a lot. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I am out.